Hi, you clicked on the right video if you struggle learning a language. I'm Hidin and I'm 24 years old. I can speak Turkish, English, French, Korean, and German, which makes 5 languages in total. Although my German isn't as good as my other languages, I can still work with that and I can still communicate really well with my German. You might be wondering if I want to learn new languages, and the answer is simply yes. I will learn new languages, and I'm currently learning Japanese and Italian. In this video, I will show you some unorthodox methods to learn new languages. Disclaimer, they are legal. First of all, before starting anything, before learning, before you're starting your course or anything like that, you should have a purpose for learning that language. Whether it is for school, whether it is to move abroad, whether it is for your semester abroad, you need to make sure why you want to learn that language. Otherwise, you are not going to be able to stick with that. So first, make sure why you're learning that language. Is it for school? Is it to study abroad, or is it to move abroad? If you're moving abroad for like a short amount of time, you might not need to learn the language, right? But if you're moving for a longer period, it depends where you're going. For instance, if you're going to the Netherlands, maybe English will save you. But if you're going to France, well, you will need to speak French to basically survive. So it depends on where you're going, when you're going, for how long you're going. If you need to develop your skills for your occupation, maybe you're in commerce and exporting, importing products into your country or outside your country, maybe you need to learn a new language, maybe it's a new business deal. That is also a purpose. And you might say, Helene, I don't have any purpose like that. It's not for school, it's not for a work, it's not for anything like that. It could be as simple as to have a new hobby, or maybe to understand your favorite artists, or to read in your favorite author's language. Whatever the reason is, you have to make sure why you're learning that language. You need to have a reason. I learned English in school. I learned French to move abroad, to study abroad in France. And I learned Korean to understand Bang Chan's lives. And currently I'm learning Japanese so that I can read Miyako Kawakami in her own language. It's gonna take me some time, but I'm gonna do it because I know I'm gonna do it. But because I didn't have a purpose learning German. When I started learning German, I couldn't keep it consistent, which gets me to the second point. Be consistent. I know everyone who makes these types of videos say, oh, be consistent, just keep it a habit, make it a habit. But how? How am I gonna make it into a habit when it's boring, when it's not something I enjoy, when it's not fun? Well, you have to have a purpose, and so then you can make it consistent because you have a purpose and you know why you're studying that language. That will give you direction. You have to have a purpose. You have to have a purpose to be consistent, but how can you make it consistent when it's boring? You have to make it fun. To make it fun, in my opinion, you need to start by listening and watching closely. Let's say if you're learning English, you can start by watching Friends or watching Doctor Who, or watching other British or American shows that you love. Doctor Who and Friends were the ones that helped me the most when learning English. English isn't my native language, but I can speak it well, and I can communicate well in English, and I can do that in French too. Why? Because I was interested in culture. I immersed myself in the culture. Media consumption is key. With Korean, tons of content are available online because of K-pop and K-dramas. There are even videos on YouTube that show snippets of TV shows to teach you the language, and it has like subtitles, dubbing, and explanations for phrases that are idioms or for phrases that are slang, so you can learn the language. So what you have to do to make it fun is to try finding sources that will make it fun for you. On Instagram, on YouTube, you have tons of content available for you in any language that you want, in Russian, in Korean, in Japanese, in Spanish, in English, especially in English and Korean. You have so many sources. So please try to find something fun, something exciting, something that you can do every day. If you do that, if you make it fun, you not only learn how the language is, you also learn the local language. You don't force yourself in academies or in school to learn only the grammar and only how like elite people speak, but you also learn the local and slang language, which is very important, because if you don't keep up with media, then your language will not be very fun. Until now, I did not give a name for an application, or I haven't recommended a course. Well, it's because you know how you learn the best. Scientifically, listening and reading are the easiest skills that you can develop, because it's not production, it is comprehension, and comprehension comes before production. For me, it was the opposite. I am such a yapper that I like to talk, and I keep on talking and talking and talking until I get it correctly. So that's what happens. Like when I start learning languages, I can first speak and then understand what I'm listening, which is very interesting, but this is who I am. So you know how you learn. Maybe you're a calmer, quieter person who likes to listen to other people before speaking. This is good for you because you can listen and mimic what they're saying. However, you need to know you have to have 4 skills in order to succeed in speaking that language. It is listening, reading, speaking, and writing. It doesn't go in that order, because when we talk about languages, if we cannot communicate in those languages, if we can't speak them, then why are we learning that? If I can read, listen, and write, but I can't speak, how is it gonna help me? Humans communicate with speaking. Even if it's sign language, you first learn the signs and then practice speaking, and that helps the most to develop the skills. So who do you talk with? If speaking is that important, who do you talk with? Well, you will talk with natives. If you're learning Japanese, you will speak with Japanese people because it helps you to mimic them more easily. If you don't have a Japanese person next to you, you'll find someone who speaks the language but is not native, and try to speak with them and try to ask them questions about the language, about the sounds, or maybe just listen to them when they're speaking that language. If you're an American person and if you have a Mexican friend and who speaks Spanish with his family and you're with them when they're having dinner, well, you can try to listen to them instead of just, trying to talk to them in English. You can just try to listen and then understand what's going on. If you're not into speaking with them, if you don't feel comfortable speaking with them, just listen. If you have no one around you, like literally no one, go speak to your mother. Speak to them. Even if they don't speak the language, just go speak to them. Practice it. If you have a list of vocabulary, put them in a bowl. Give it to your mother. One side, language you're learning. One side, your native language that your mother speaks. Give it to her and ask her what it says. And then you tell her the other side. So speak it, okay? Not just try to fix and find what is behind the paper, but try to speak. Even if it's just words, even if it's just sounds, try to speak. Try to mimic the sounds. And if you still don't have that resource of speaking to your mother, speaking to your pet, speak to yourself in the mirror. Go in front of the mirror and just say, I'm da 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 da. I am 24 years old. I live in this city. I studied this, and simple phrases. Dear viewer, at this point you might be saying, I don't know the language. I know nothing about that language. I don't know the basics. Well, you can start by telling your name only. You can just say, 私は Helen です. I am Helen. You can tell where you're from. If you still don't know that, if you're just starting, the simple thing is listening. Back to the first method. If you struggle doing the speaking exercise, go back to listening. Listen and repeat. Even if you don't know what it means, just mimic. Think of kids learning music. You hear a song and then you try to mimic it. You know how when we were listening to that Alicia Keys song in New York, there's this sentence, concrete jungle where dreams are made of. And we all thought it was tomatoes at some point because we heard it like that. What I'm trying to say is we pick up the sounds by listening. I haven't looked at Alicia Keys' song lyrics. I was just listening to it and I learned. If you can't speak it, just try to listen. Go back to your first method. I will give you an example. So when I was learning Korean, I could only write my name and I had no idea what the language sounded like. So I was also interested in knitting, and I found this Korean knitting channel and I was just listening, and I heard "그다음에," and I said, what does that mean? And I asked what it means to a friend, but I can't write 그다음에. So I was like, oh, what does it mean? And then my friend was like, I don't know what what you're trying to say because I basically cannot write it, so she can't really understand what it's about. So then after a while, after I started learning into it, after I started to practice it more, I realized, oh, it means then, like after that, 그 다음에. But the person on the video was saying 그 다음에, because, you know, that's the slang, and she was saying it really fast. But it did stick with me because I listened before I learned. When I was in university, I had a minor in psychology, and during one class, we studied babies' language learning patterns. First, they listen, then they mimic. They cannot know what mama means. They only hear it and they repeat it. They don't know what it means, but whenever they see their mother says mama, like shows themselves, and this is mama, papa. And so it goes, oh, the baby's like, oh, okay, this sound is related with this, and this sound is related with this, and this word is related with this, so it means that. Even if they keep repeating the words, they might just make nonsense sentences, like I love me dada, or I no love milk. First, they understand sounds, then words, then sentences, then bigger phrases and bigger sentences, and then paragraphs, and the usual daily life. So even if you do it in the mirror, just try to speak, mimic the sounds that you hear in a video. Just start a video, listen to it, and repeat it. Repeat. Is there a TV show that you know by heart on Amazon, on Netflix? I'm assuming that you're an English speaker, so if you can speak English, just go pick an English show and put dubbing in the language that you want to learn. No subtitles, just dubbing. Try to understand what they're saying. Try to understand what words they're using for certain people, and when you see repetition, just write the words that you hear. Try to write. It doesn't matter if you can't write correctly, you're just hearing and writing. If you're a real beginner, there are so many resources online, like Duolingo, Cambly, Simple, and so on. But my method for Korean was to get weekly 2-hour classes with a Korean Turkish speaker online, and it was a group course. It wasn't a private lesson. And when I got over the basics, I quit the class and I started to find word lists. For any European language, you search A1XX language grammar list, A1XX language vocabulary list. So you get like your level words that you need to know and your level of grammar that you need to know, and then you can start by doing it simple by simple. And especially if you speak English and you don't have to learn any other alphabets if you're learning a European language, I don't think that you need to spend a lot of money on courses, online courses, or any like private tutoring lessons. You can just start on your own with the first beginner level, and then if you like it, then you can continue for like higher levels. But this is just my recommendation. If those online resources aren't helping you at all, then try to go for a course or like a private tutoring session if those methods don't work. For me personally, group classes are better because when I study with other people on quizzes, on exams, and revising with others is very helpful for me. But if you're a shy person, if you don't like the interaction, maybe online private tutoring sessions would be better for you, so you know yourself best. It completely depends on you and your preferences about your studying method. So personally, why did I fail with German? I asked myself, and the answer is simple. I found nothing interesting in German except my really horrible ex. I had no connection to the language at all. So with English, I had TV shows, I had songs, I had friends in high school, I had YouTubers, and specifically, I always loved learning new things. And with French, again, I loved watching YouTubers, French YouTubers. And so the main thing is media consumption. You have to consume media to learn the culture, not the language. Without learning the culture, you're not going to learn the language. So first, you kind of understand the culture, and then if you're interested with the culture, then you learn the language. Language comes after culture. And when you're watching those, just take notes, study, and repeat. Watch the same video over and over. I know it's gonna get boring, but if it's something that you enjoy, if the video is something that you enjoy, you will not find it boring. And if you get bored, then just stop and go find another video and just keep doing that. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Repetition is very important in learning languages. I cannot emphasize the importance of repetition. Keep telling yourself the same sentence over and over again. It's almost as if you're going into a job interview where you repeat the correct sentence that you have to say when they ask you a question. The perfect answer. You try to plan it, and then the more you repeat, the better it gets. So it's like that. You have to repeat to make it perfect. Keep repeating the correct phrases until you get them correct without looking anywhere. Okay? You first look at the screen, you see the sentence, the correct sentence, you say it out loud by looking at it, and then try to repeat, and after that, just close the tab and then try to repeat it yourself until you get it correctly each time. Flashcards. Keep a list of words, idioms, sentences, grammar, subjects, then separate 3 separate lists, okay? Phrases, words, idioms. I personally like to keep my flashcards on my tablet, and I like to keep physical notebooks because I like to carry them around. But you can use like phone apps, or you can use like papers, whatever is good for you, whatever sticks with you. But I always have to have physical copies because otherwise I just toss them over and I find them nowhere. So if I have my physical copy, I just put them in a separated shelf, and then I just look through my notes. So I always have to have my digital and my physical copy at the same time, because if it's digital, it's like difficult for me to find. But whatever works best for you, just pick that. And if you're learning a language with a difficult alphabet, let's say, again, I'm going to give the Japanese example, but it could be the Cyrillic, it could be the Greek alphabet. You need to know how the signs sound. I mean, all languages have different alphabets, but if it uses a complete different system, like the Cyrillic, the Greek, then you have to first figure that out. You need to know the strokes, you need to know the letters, you need to know how the letters combine. Most people skip the alphabet part as it's boring, but it's key to know the alphabet and the sounds, because the sound system, the phonetic system in a language helps you connect sounds and helps you understand how words are built. Pronounce them correctly each time you see them. For example, Turkish learners, when they see can, C-A-N, and when they see kem, C-H-E-M, they get confused. They're like, is it kem? Is it can? Is it san? Because C, you say C, but you say can. So the K and C, they get confused. So first you need to know how the sound system connects and how the sounds are produced in the language. About 6 years, I did not know the difference between W and V. I would say what instead of what. I still struggle with that because we don't have W in Turkish, which is my native language, and it doesn't exist in French, and so in English it's the only sound that is difficult for me to produce perfectly. You have to know the differences between letters, sounds, and the phonetic system between the different languages. So it's important to have someone that teaches you correctly and perfectly, a native speaker. Even if you don't have the resources to access the native language speaker, you can find online on YouTube native speakers in that language. Please listen to native speakers and please try to hear the sounds when they're producing the sounds. Journaling also helps, but some people might not like it, so I'm not gonna force journaling onto you, but I love writing, so journaling works amazing. Journaling works wonders for me. Try to find prompts online. If you love fashion, try to write, blogs in that language. If you like traveling, try to write some traveling notes and just try to write something about the city that you just visited. If you love football, just try to explain a match to somebody. Just write a letter to someone you love and try to find something interesting in journaling and in writing. The possibilities are endless and you just have to find one that is enjoyable for you. You can do that while going to school, you can do that while going to work if you're not driving. You can just type on your phone. I personally don't like typing because I like to write so that, like physically to develop my writing skill, because writing is best when you're practicing your language. You're seeing, you're writing, you're also hearing when you're producing the words in your mind. So it's important. And if you're writing at home, if you're in a comfortable place, maybe you can read out loud while you're writing so that you can also hear and correct your pronunciation. It is always recommended when you're reading a book in a foreign language to first read it in your mind and then read it out loud so that you hear the sounds you're producing and you're hearing, and there's a difference. So try to make the difference as minimum as possible, because when I hear the book in English, I hear it with perfect accent, but when I'm saying it, it's not in perfect accent still. But the more I do it, the better I get at it. So the more you produce, the more comfortable it gets. And lastly, do not be discouraged by your age. Although studies show that language learning decreases after the age of 17, but who cares? Okay, you have a purpose, you have a goal, and you're going to learn that language. Even if you're 60, even if you're 20, you will learn that language because you want to. Just remind yourself that. Be consistent, be willing, do not give up, and I am sure that you are going to learn. And if you want more videos like this, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!